Welcome viewers. I am Amuda from School of Management, Shastra Deemed University. Let us now see the problems and solutions and ratio analysis. First one, problem number 1. We have current liabilities as 50,000 rupees, quick ratio as 1.5:1, inventory as 25,000, calculate current assets. What are all the current assets? We have stock, data, bills receivable, prepaid expenses, outstanding incomes. Now, what are the current liabilities we have? Sundry creditors, bills payable, outstanding expenses, income received in advance and your bank overdraft. Now, current liabilities is 50,000 rupees here. Quick ratio is 1.5:1. Inventory is 25,000 rupees. Quick ratio, quick assets divided by quick liabilities. If no information is given for the bank overdraft, we take quick liabilities on par with your current liabilities. Quick liabilities is equal to current liabilities. What is your quick ratio now? 1.5. Quick assets divided by 50,000 is equal to 1.5. Now bring this right hand side to the left hand side. We have quick assets is equal to 1.5 into 50,000. That is your 75,000 rupees. Now current assets is quick assets plus stock. Normally what is your quick assets? Quick assets is equal to current assets minus your stock and prepaid. Normally we take only the stock if you know prepaid expenses are given. So current assets is equal to, current assets minus your stock. Quick assets is equal to current assets minus your stock. Now what is your current assets now? Quick assets plus stock. So we have found out your quick assets and the inventory is given in the problem. So we are adding the stock. So we get current assets. That is your 1 lakh rupees. 75,000 plus 25,000. So current liabilities we have on the problem. With the current liabilities, with the application of quick ratio, we are able to find out your current assets, quick assets. So with the quick assets, we are finding out the current assets, having the inventory in the problem. Second problem, we have sales rupees 40 lakhs rupees, turnover ratio is 8 times, closing bills receivable is 40,000, ascertain your closing data. Normally in data's turnover ratio, we take only the average data. Average data woman, opening data plus closing data by 2. Wherever data we mean, we include the bills receivable also. Now we don't have the information regarding the opening data and opening bills receivable. So we take the closing data and your closing bills receivable in the denominator. Net sales. What is your net sales? Sales less sales returns. If no sales returns is given on the problem, we take sales as such. So 40 lakh rupees divided by 40,000 plus your closing data. Closing data we have to find out now. Now we have this next equation as 8 into 40,000 plus closing data. We are bringing this denominator to the LHS. So we are multiplying here. So is equal to 40 lakh rupees. Now 3,20,000 plus closing data is equal to 40 lakh rupees. Now 8 into closing data is equal to 40 lakhs minus 3,20,000. So what is your amount now? 36 lakhs 80,000 divided by 8. This 8 is brought to the right hand side. Now closing data is 4 lakhs 60,000. So with the information given on the problem, that is the data turnover ratio, always turnover ratio is given in terms of times. Then into 8 is equal to net sales divided by closing data and closing bills receivable. So we are able to ascertain the closing data as 4,60,000. The next problem, the following information of a company is given. Current ratio is 2.5, asset risk ratio, it is otherwise called as the liquid ratio, 1.5:1, current liabilities is 50,000, find out current assets, liquid assets and inventory. Current ratio is current assets divided by current liabilities. That is 2.5 is equal to current assets divided by 50,000 rupees. 50,000 is said to be the current liabilities given in the problem. Current assets is equal to 50,000 into 2.5. It comes to rupees 1,25,000. Asset test ratio, it's otherwise a liquid ratio. Liquid assets divided by current liabilities. As we already said, we take current liabilities also in the denominator instead of quick liabilities. Quick assets divided by 50,000. This 50,000 is given on the problem. Now 1.5 is equal to liquid assets divided by 50,000. What is your liquid assets now? Bring this 50,000 to the LHS, 50,000 into 1.5. So that will be 75,000. Liquid assets is 75,000. Now what is your inventory? Current assets minus your liquid assets. Always the difference between liquid assets and your current assets is the stock. 1,25,000 minus your 75,000, that is your 50,000 rupees. So given the current ratio, given the liquid ratio and the current liabilities, we are able to calculate current assets, liquid assets and inventory. So with the current ratio, we are finding out the current assets. With the liquid ratio, we are finding out the liquid assets. The difference between the current assets and your liquid assets is your inventory. Given current ratio is 2.8, asset test ratio is 1.5, working capital is 1,62,000, find out current assets, current liabilities and liquid assets. What is your working capital? Normally, the gross working capital is said to be the total of your current assets. The gross concept is total of your current assets. What is your net working capital? That is your net concept. In your net concept, we have current assets minus your current liabilities. Current assets minus your current liabilities. Now, do we know the current assets and current liabilities? We don't know how the amounts in the problem. So, the clue is 2.8 as current ratio. What is your current ratio? Current assets divided by current liabilities. So, we have 2.8 as current assets, now 1 as current liability. So, 2.8 minus 1 is 1.8. Now, what is this 1.8? That is your working capital, 1,62,000. Now, what is your current liability now? If 1.8 is 1,60,000, what is 1? So, it is 90,000 rupees. If 1.8 is 1,62,000, what is 2.8? That is your current assets. Otherwise, if 90,000 is one part, we multiply it by 2.8, that is 2,52,000. Now, current liability is 90,000, current asset is 2,52,000. Find out the difference between this current asset and current liability. You will arrive with this working capital 1,62,000. So, whatever the amount we have found out is right now. Asset test ratio is liquid assets divided by current liabilities. Now, we have found out current liabilities that apply here. 1.5 is equal to liquid assets divided by 90,000. That is your liquid assets. 90,000 into 1.5, that is 1,35,000, that is your liquid assets. Cost of goods sold of XY Limited is 5 lakh rupees. The opening inventory is 40,000, closing inventory is 60,000. Find out your inventory turnover ratio. Normally, inventory turnover ratio takes into account the average inventory. What is your average inventory? That is equal to opening stock plus your closing stock by 2. That is your average inventory. What is your opening stock here? 40,000 rupees. What is your closing stock? 60,000. So, 40,000 plus 60,000 by 2, that is your average inventory. Cost of goods sold is given on the problem as 5 lakh rupees. So, 5 lakhs divided by average inventory 50,000, that will give you 10 times. We can also find it out in terms of your days. Say 365 days in a year, 365 divided by your 10 times, that will give you 36.5. Otherwise, it can be approximately taken as 37 days. That means it takes 37 days to convert your stock into cash. This is in terms of your days. Even you can calculate it in terms of your month. That is 12 months divided by 10. That is 1.2. For every 1.2 months, nearing 1.5 months. So, it will be, that is your 6 weeks. So, we can take this 6 weeks to convert your stock into cash. Next problem, we have Messrs. Ram and Company supplies you the following information for the year ending 31st December 2009. Credit sales, that is 1,50,000, cash sales 2,50,000. So whenever we are going to calculate your inventory turnover, we are going to take up the total sales. What is your total sales? Total sales is cash sales plus your credit sales. Now sales returns. Returns inward is otherwise called as the sales returns. Sales returns is 25,000. So whenever we want to find out your net sales, total sales minus your sales returns. Opening stock is 25,000, closing stock is 35,000. So this is useful to calculate your average inventory. Now we have to find out inventory turnover when gross profit ratio is 20% and the inventory conversion period. See to it. First one, what is your inventory turnover ratio? We have cost of goods sold divided by the average stock. What is your cost of goods sold? We have to find out the net sales first. 1,50,000 plus your 2,50,000, that is your cash sales plus your credit sales minus your sales returns 25,000. Net sales is 3,75,000. GP on your sales is given as 20%. So 20% on 3,75,000 is 75,000. This is your gross profit. Cost of goods sold, we know it is GP to be deducted from net sales. 3,75,000 minus your 75,000, that is your 3 lakhs. It can be otherwise calculated like this. Net sales is 3,75,000. What is your 80%? 80% is also called as cost of goods sold. If GP is 20, cost of goods sold is 80%. As we already told, average stock is opening stock plus your closing stock by 2. That is 25,000 plus 35,000 by 2, we will get 30,000 rupees. Now passing on to the inventory turnover ratio, cost of goods sold divided by average stock. Cost of goods sold we have calculated as 3 lakh rupees. Average stock is 30,000 rupees, that is your 10 times. Inventory turnover is 10 times. As usual, if you want to calculate it in terms of your conversion period, so 365 days in a year divided by your 10 times, it is approximately 37 days. As we already seen in the last problem, even this can be calculated in terms of your months. 12 months divided by 10, that will be 1.2 months. It is otherwise 6 weeks. It is otherwise 6 weeks. The inventory has been disposed of or sold on an average in 37 days. So in every 37 days, the inventory is converted into cash. Now, if inventory turnover ratio is 5 times and the average cost is 75,000, find out your cost of goods sold. As we know, inventory turnover ratio is cost of goods sold divided by average inventory at cost. Average inventory is given on the problem 75,000. Your inventory turnover ratio is given as 5. So we are finding out the cost of goods sold. So 5 is equal to cost of goods sold divided by 75,000. That is 75,000 into 5. That will be 3,75,000 as cost of goods sold. It's just a simply application of your information. Next comes the 8th one. Annual credit sales is 25,000. Returns is 1,000, debtors is 3,000, bills receivable is 1,000. Find out your debtors turnover ratio. So when we have the net credit annual sales, whenever we are going to find out your debtors turnover ratio, we are going to take only the credit sales. Cash sales will not be included. Now annual credit sales is 25,000, we have returns of 1,000 rupees. So net credit sales is 25,000 minus your 1,000, that is your sales returns. Now debtors is inclusive of your receivables. So 3,000 plus 1,000 will be the closing debtors. So 3,000 plus 1,000 will be the denominator. Now 25,000 minus 1,000 divided by 4,000 rupees. That is 6 times. That means the debtors is collected 6 times in a year. Suppose if you want to find out in terms of your month, that is your collection period, we can take it as 12 months divided by 6 times. That means for every 2 months, you are collecting the debtors. So 2 months give a month, that is your 8 weeks. Even you can calculate it in terms of your days. 365 days divided by 6 times. So this is the debtors collection period. For every 2 months, you are collecting your debtors. So turnover ratio is 6 times. The higher the turnover ratio, the number will be, months will be lesser. Say for example, if it is 12 times. So 12 months divided by 12, 1 month. So for every 1 month we are going to collect your data. So the higher the turnover ratio, the most easier will be the collection period. Earlier will be the collection period. We shall see the 9th one. Find out data's turnover average collection period from the following information. This is for 2 years, 2009 and 2010. We have annual credit sales of 5 lakh rupees in 2009, 6 lakhs rupees in 2010. Datas in the beginning is 80,000. Datas in the beginning for 2010 is 90,000. At the end for 2009 is 1 lakh rupees. At the end for 2010 is 1 lakh 10,000. Days to be taken is 360 days. Normally we take 360 days for the calculations. Now what is your data's turnover ratio? We have the credit sales and we have the datas in the beginning at the end. So we have to calculate the average datas first and then apply it on the formula. See to it. Average datas is opening datas and closing datas plus closing datas divided by 2. Now what is your data's turnover ratio? Net credit sales divided by average datas. Now we are going to calculate for the 2 years, namely 2009 and 2010. Average datas for the first year is opening datas is 80,000 rupees, closing datas is 1 lakh divided by 2 will get 90,000 rupees. Now for the next year, that is 2010, we have 90,000 as your opening datas, we have 1 lakh 10,000 as your closing datas. So we have 1 lakh rupees. Data's turnover ratio is net credit sales, that is 5 lakh rupees divided by 90,000, it is 5.56 times. For the 2010, 6 lakhs rupees divided by 1 lakh, we get 6 times. Average collection period is number of working days in a year divided by data's turnover ratio. For the 2009, we have 5.56 times. So we take 365 days divided by 5.56. Even we can take 360 days here. It will be 64.7 days. This is for 60 days for 2010. So 65 days will be the approximate time for your 2009. 60 days will be the approximate time for your 2010. So this is the average collection period. So data's turnover ratio is 5.6 times for the first year. This is for 6 times in the second year. See to it, higher the number of times it is turned over, the lower is said to be the time taken to collect the debt. If it is 5.56 days times, we get 65 days. This is, we take it as 360 now. Now this is 6 times, we take 60 days. So the higher the turnover, the lower will be the period taken for the collection of debts. The 10th one, from the following information, calculate average collection period. Total sales is 1,10,000. Cash sales included in total sales. So this is the sales included in total sales. Total sales is 1 lakh rupees. Cash sales is 20,000. So what will be the credit sales? The difference, namely 80,000 rupees. Now sales returns is 7,000 rupees. So what is your net credit sales? 1 lakh rupees minus 20,000 will be the credit sales. 80,000 minus 7,000, 73,000 will be the net credit sales. Now total datas at the end of the year is 11,000, bills receivable is 4,000, bad debts provision is 1,000, creditors is 10,000. We should be very careful in this problem. Bad debts provision should not be included in your average collection period. Now creditors is said to be an amount which is related with your purchases. Now we are going to calculate with the datas. So this creditors amount should also not to be included in the calculation. See to it, datas plus bills receivable divided by net credit sales per day. What is a net credit sales per day? 73,000 divided by 365. How we have got the 73,000? As we already told, total sales is 1 lakh, less your cash sales, will get credit sales as 80,000, less your sales returns as 7,000, will get net credit sales as 73,000. Now divided by the number of days in a year, that is 365 days, we will get 200 rupees of net credit sales for 1 day. Average collection period is 11,000 plus 4,000 divided by 200, that is your net credit sales, that is 75 days. So for every 75 days you are collecting the debtors. See to it, as we already mentioned, the information regarding bad debts provision and sundry creditors is irrelevant now. The data should be taken before deducting provision for bad debts. So, this provision for bad debts is created based on your conservatism concept, convention, but this should not be calculated in calculating your ratios. In a year 365 days have been taken, although 360 days will also be taken for some analysis. So, we take 365 days or 360 days. Whatever the number of days we are going to calculate, it should be mentioned in the problem. From the following information, calculate creditors turnover ratio and average payment period. Total purchases is 4 lakh rupees. Cash purchases included in above is 50,000. Purchases returns is 20,000. So, with this we are going to find out your net credit purchases. Total purchases 4 lakh rupees minus your cash purchases 50,000. You will get 3,50,000 as your credit purchases. Minus your purchases returns, that is your 20,000. So, 350 minus your 20 is 3,30,000 rupees. Creditors at the end is 60,000, bills payable at the end is 20,000. So, this will be taken as a denominator. Reserve for discount on creditors, as bad debts provision is not taken for your debtors, the same way reserve for discount on creditors should also be not taken. Now, take 365 days in a year. Creditors turnover ratio, annual net purchases divided by average trade creditors. See, we have calculated your net credit purchases. 4 lakh rupees is your total purchases, less your cash purchases 50,000, credit purchases 3,50,000, less your returns 20,000, we get 3,30,000 as your net credit purchases. 3,30,000 divided by your closing creditors and bills payable, that is your 60,000 plus your 20,000. So, wherever we mean creditors, we also include bills payable also. As we include bills receivable in debtors, we include bills payable in creditors. Now, 3,30,000 divided by 80,000 will get 4.13 times. So, 4.13 times we are going to convert your creditors, that is we are going to pay the creditors. Number of days divided by creditors turnover ratio is said to be the average payment period. 365 divided by 4.13 will get 88 days approximately. So, this 88 days women, for every 88 days we are paying the creditors. This can also be calculated like this: closing creditors divided by your net credit purchases into your 365 days. Again we will get 88 days. Either you go for your turnover ratio and find out your average payment period in the next step, or we can directly apply it in the formula as closing creditors divided by net credit purchases into 365. So, we are calculating credit purchases first, then deduct your purchases returns, we are finding out the net credit purchases, then go for your closing creditors on your bills payable, then find out your creditors turnover ratio, find out your average payment period, and that will be the period within which we are going to repay your creditors. The following information is given about Messrs. Yes Limited for the year ending 31st December 2009. Stock turnover ratio is 6 times. Gross profit ratio is 20% on sales. Sales for 2009 is 3 lakh rupees. Closing stock is 10,000 more than the opening stock. So, we do not have the opening stock in the problem and also the closing stock in the problem. Opening creditors is 20,000 rupees. Closing creditors is 30,000 rupees. Debtors at the end is 60,000. Net working capital is 50,000 rupees. Now, we are going to find out what is your average stock, purchases, creditors turnover ratio, average payment period, average collection period and working capital turnover ratio. Now, we have the information as stock turnover ratio, GP ratio, sales, then opening creditors, closing creditors, then trade credit debtors at the end, net working capital. So, with this we are going to find out what is the information regarding stock, purchases, creditors turnover, average payment period, average collection period and working capital turnover. Now, see to it, GP ratio is 20% on sales and we have the sales. With this we can find out your cost of goods sold. sales minus GP. With the cost of goods sold and stock turnover ratio, we can easily find out your closing stock and your opening stock. Then go to a closing creditors, that is we can find out your purchases. After purchases, we can go for your sales calculation and then debtors calculation and the net working capital. We can see one by one. Cost of goods sold, sales minus GP. GP is 20% on sales. So that 3 lakh rupees into 20% will get 60,000 rupees. So 2,40,000 is said to be your cost of goods sold. What is your average stock? Stock turnover ratio is cost of goods sold divided by average stock. Stock turnover ratio is given on the problem as 6. Cost of goods sold is 2,40,000. Now we have found it out. Now we are going to find out the average stock. So average stock is rupees 2,40,000 divided by 6 will get 40,000 rupees. So this is your average stock. What is your average stock now? Opening stock plus closing stock by 2. Now we have a hint here. Opening stock and closing stocks to be calculated with the information given on the problem. Closing stock is 10% more than the opening stock. Now 40,000 is equal to opening stock plus 10,000 plus opening stock divided by 2. So this is your closing stock, opening plus 10,000. So 80,000, this 2 is brought to the left hand side, 80,000, 40,000 into 2 will get 80,000 rupees. Now opening stock plus 2 opening stock plus rupees 10,000, because we have 2 opening stocks here. We can even have this opening stock as X also. So if we have it as X, it will be 2X plus 10,000. Now opening stock is equal to, this 10,000 is brought to the left hand side, 80 minus 10 will get 70,000 here. Now this 2 will be brought here and this is taken as a division by 2. So 35,000 will be the opening stock. So what is closing stock? As we already mentioned in the problem, that is 35,000 plus 10,000, 10,000 higher. So 45,000 will be the closing stock. Rupees 45,000. Now we are going to find out purchases. What is purchases? This purchases can be calculated with a hint of cost of goods sold. This cost of goods sold can be calculated in 2 ways. That is your sales minus your GP. That is the way in which we are calculated in the first step. We got second formula as opening stock plus purchases minus your closing stock. Now we have to calculate purchases. Either we can have this purchases as X, or you can bring this purchases to the LHS. If this purchases is brought here, cost of goods sold plus closing minus your opening stock. So 2,40,000 is the cost of goods sold. We found it in the previous slide, and we have 45,000 as your closing stock, 35,000 as your opening stock. So 2,50,000 is the purchases. So now we have calculated what is your cost of goods sold and what is your opening stock, closing stock and purchases. Next we shall see what is creditors turnover ratio. Net annual purchases divided by average creditors. All purchases are taken as credit purchases here. If no information is given particularly about cash purchases and credit purchases, we take into account all purchases as credit purchases. Creditors turnover ratio is equal to 2,50,000, that is your purchases, divided by your trade creditors, that is 20,000 plus 30,000 divided by 2. So this is 10 times. As usual, when we have 10 times, 365 divided by 10 will get 36.5. That is, either you can have this like this, you can 365 days or 360 days, whatever may be the number of days you are going to take. So it is 37 days. So we take into account the other formula also, wherein we can directly find out what is the payment period. Say average trade creditors into number of working days divided by annual purchases. Average trade creditors we know this 25,000, that is 20 plus 30, 50,000 by 2. So this is your 2,50,000 is your purchases, 365 days we have taken, so it will be 37 days. Average collection period. Average trade creditors into number of working days into divided by net annual sales. So we take into account directly here. 60,000 is your average debtors, 365 days we are taking it in a year, so net annual sales is 3 lakh rupees. So 73 days is said to be the average collection period. Next we come to the working capital turnover ratio. Cost of goods sold divided by net working capital. Cost of goods sold is the first step. You have calculated 2,40,000. Net working capital is given in the problem as 50,000. So this is 4.8 times. That is how 4.8 times net working capital is turned over into cash in the business. Next we shall see some of the problems in ratio analysis. Calculate GP ratio. Total sales is 5,20,000. Sales returns is 20,000. We have cost of goods sold as 4 lakh rupees. So what is your GP now? Sales less sales returns, that is your net sales. Net sales GP divided by sales into 100. What is your GP now? Sales minus cost of goods sold. See, GP divided by sales into 100. That is your total sales minus your net sales, sales returns. That is your net sales. 5,20,000 minus your 20,000, we have 5 lakh rupees. Gross profit is net sales minus your cost of goods sold. 5 lakh rupees minus your cost of goods sold given in the problem is 4 lakhs, that is your 1 lakh. So GP is 1 lakh, sales is 5 lakhs into 100, that is your 20%. What is the significance of this ratio now? Whenever GP ratio is calculated, we are going to find out what is the profit that is calculated on the exchange of goods and services alone. That is your purchases and sales alone. The basic components of your GP ratio are sales and your cost of goods sold. Gross profit is simply excess of your net sales over the cost of goods sold. What is your cost of goods sold? That is your opening stock plus purchases minus your closing stock. How many number of units or how much value of your opening stock you have in your hand, and what is the total purchases you have made during the year, that will be your total stock in your hand, minus your closing stock. What is the stock at the end of your year? So the difference between these two, opening plus purchases minus your closing, will be the cost of goods sold. So sales minus cost of goods sold is said to be a GP. Sales will always be at invoice price, cost of goods sold will be at cost price. So the invoice price and the cost price is compared, and the difference is said to be a profit margin. That is your GP ratio. Net sales can be found out by deducting your sales returns or sales inwards. If we deduct GP ratio from 100, we obtain the ratio of cost of goods sold. That is, if 20% is your GP ratio, 80% is your cost of goods sold. If 25% is your GP ratio, 75% is your cost of goods sold. So we take into account these two ratios on a parallel basis. Now find out your operating ratio. Cost of goods sold is 3,50,000, selling and distribution expenses 20,000, administrative and office expenses 30,000, net sales is 5 lakhs. So whenever we are going to take operating ratio, we are going to take out what are all the operating expenses. Operating expenses include cost of goods sold, office and administration, selling and distribution. See, operating expenses we take 20,000, 30,000 and 3,50,000 divided by your net sales into 100. So 80% is your operating ratio. That means this 80% of your sales is converted into your expenses, that is directed towards your expenses. That is cost of goods sold and operating expenses. So only 20% is left over to cover the interest charge. So cost of goods, when you deduct your cost of goods sold from sales, we will get gross profit. From this gross profit, when you are going to deduct all your operating expenses, we will get your profit. That is available for the interest payments, tax payments, dividend payments, etc. So this operating ratio gives an idea towards the management regarding the profit available for the dividend payments, interest payments and other charges that are to be made in a fixed manner. So whenever this operating ratio is 80%, 20% is the available profit. If operating ratio is 75%, 25% will be the available profit. So this is the way in which the management is going to predict what is the ratio of profit available in the hand to pay off your fixed payments. The next problem comes. From the following information, find out your operating ratio. Cost of goods sold, Again, it is administration and office expenses, selling and distributive expenses, net sales. The same way we are going to calculate here. Operating profit divided by net sales into 100. We are going to calculate operating profit ratio and also operating ratio. Whenever we say this operating profit ratio, operating profit divided by net sales into 100. Sales minus cost of goods sold and your operating expenses. That is 6 lakhs minus 4 lakhs, 35,000 and 45,000 will get 1,25,000. So, operating profit ratio is 20%. Alternatively, this can be calculated like this. Operating profit ratio is 100 minus operating ratio. What is your operating ratio? What is your expenses ratio? See, 4 lakhs plus 35,000 plus 45,000 divided by 6 lakhs of sales into 100. That is your 80%. So, see to it, if operating profit is 80%, operating profit is 20%. So, 100 minus 80 will be 20%. As we already seen in the earlier problem, if 80 is operating ratio, 20% is your operating profit ratio. What does this operating profit mean? That is the EBIT, earning before interest and taxes. That is earnings available for the payment of interest and your taxes. So, after paying off your debenture interest and your interest on your long term borrowings and your tax payments, now we have the profit available only for the shareholders alone. Whenever we mean shareholders here, that is profit after tax. This profit after tax is available for preference shareholders and also your equity shareholders. So, the first preference is given to the preference shareholders regarding the dividend payments. So, PAT minus your preference dividend, that will be the earnings available for equity shareholders alone. So, this amount available for equity shareholders will be divided by your number of equity shares outstanding in the company, that will give you the earnings per share. So, this is the amount available for the equity shareholders who are said to be the real owners of the enterprise. We shall see the second and fourth problem. Following is the profit and loss account of PSQ Limited for the year ended 31st December 2009. We have a opening stock of 1 lakh rupees, purchases 3,50,000, wages 9,000, GP as 201. We have sales on your closing stock as 5,60,000 and 1 lakh rupees. Now, we have a total of your main trading account as 6,60,000. We have administrative expenses as 20,000, selling and distribution expenses as 89,000, non-operating expenses as 30,000. What is this non-operating expenses women? Non-operating expenses are those expenses which are not related to your operating of your business, that is a regular running of a business. The best example will be the preliminary expenses written off, the goodwill written off, the loss on your sale of your assets. So, all these amounts that are written off, that is anything which is amortized, will not be an operating expense. Operating expenses will mean the expenses which are directly related with your operating of a business, regular running of a business. We have non-operating incomes also. Non-operating incomes will mean the incomes which are not related with your regular business, that is your income from investments 10,000, profit on sale of your investments, that is 8,000. So, all these are said to be non-operating incomes. So, whenever we want to find out operating profit, this non-operating incomes which are already added must be deducted, because which should not be included in your profit. This non-operating expenses which are already deducted must be added. So, that will be the operating profit. So, from net profit, we are going to add all your non-operating expenses, deduct all your non-operating incomes. So, with this information, we are going to calculate GP ratio, net profit ratio, operating ratio, operating profit ratio and administrative expenses ratio. So, the expenses ratio can be separately calculated. See, gross profit ratio, GP divided by net sales. GP is given in your trading account 201 divided by 5,60,000 into 100, that is 35.9. Net profit ratio is net profit after tax divided by net sales, that is 80,000 divided by 5,60,000, that is 14.3%. This can be otherwise calculated as net operating profit divided by net sales, that is 80,000 plus 30,000 minus your non-operating expenses 10 plus 8. So it is your net operating profit divided by 5,60,000, which is said to be the net sales, into 100. So we will have 92,000 divided by 5,60,000, it is 16.4. Operating ratio, cost of goods sold plus operating expenses divided by net sales. As we already told, we are going to take only the operating expenses. We have to find out what is cost of goods sold. So opening stock plus purchases plus your wages, that is all your direct expenses, minus your closing stock, it is 3,59,000. Can be otherwise calculated as sales minus GP also. So 1 lakh plus 3,50,000 plus 9,000 minus your 1 lakh, will get 3,59,000. What are all the operating expenses? We have administrative expenses, selling and distribution expenses. 20,000 plus 89,000, that is 109,000. Operating ratio is 3,59,000 plus 109 divided by your net sales, that is your 5,60,000 into 100. So 83.6%. Operating profit ratio, as we already told, 100 minus this operating ratio is said to be operating profit ratio, 16.4. Otherwise, we have to calculate operating profit divided by your net sales into 100. Administrative expenses ratio, we are going to calculate each and every expenses which is related to your net sales. Administrative expenses divided by your net sales into 100, that is 20,000 divided by 5,60,000 into 100, that is 3.6. This means that for every 100 rupees of sales, 3.6% is said to be the administrative expenses. So we have calculated GP ratio, we have calculated operating ratio, operating profit ratio, then administrative expenses ratio. Problem number 5. The format of trading and profit and loss account is given as under. Fill in the blanks, complete these accounts with the help of the given ratios. So we have a specimen of a trading and P&L account for the year ended 31st December 2009. Cost of goods sold is 2,70,000. We have to find out gross profit, sales. Then with the gross profit and sales, we can arrive at the total of your trading account. And operating expenses, we have to arrive. Non-operating expenses, 10,000 it is given. Then we have to find out your total here. Now, gross profit to the cost of goods sold is 33.1/3%, and we have the net profit to sales is 12%. So here we have to calculate the net profit also. Net profit should also be calculated here. Gross profit to cost of goods sold is 33.1/3%. That means if 1/3 is GP, 2/3 is your cost of goods sold. GP divided by cost of goods sold into 100. So GP by 2,70,000, cost of goods sold is given in the problem. So it is 90,000, GP is 90,000. So if 100 is said to be sales, 1/3 is GP, 2/3 is cost of goods sold. That is your 90,000 we have arrived at. Sales is cost of goods sold plus gross profit. Sales 2,70,000 plus 90,000, we have 3,60,000. So the equation holds good here. Sales minus GP is cost of goods sold. So we take sales is equal to cost of goods sold plus gross profit. Net profit ratio, net profit by sales into 100. We don't know net profit. So net profit by sales into 100 is equal to 12%. So net profit is 43,000. That is 3,60,000 into 12% will get 43,200. The figures computed above can be put in the trading and P&L account like this. 2,70,000 is given in the problem. We have arrived GP as 90,000. We have arrived sales as 3,60,000. So the total of your trading account is 3,60,000. Operating expenses we have calculated 36,800. Non-operating expenses given in the problem. We have the net profit. GP is 90,000. With the GP of 90,000, with the non-operating expenses is 10,000, net profit as 43,200. The amount 36,800 is said to be the balancing figure, which is taken as your operating expenses. So with the given information, we have framed the trading and profit and loss account, taking into account the GP and your net profit. Problem number 6. We have a issued and subscribed capital like this. 2,000 equity shares of rupees 100 each. that is 2 lakh rupees. 1008% preference shares of rupees 100 each, 1 lakh rupees. So total share capital is 3 lakh rupees. Reserves and surplus. Revenue reserve is 30,000, capital reserve is 50,000, reserve for contingencies is 20,000. So total reserve we have 1 lakh rupees in hand. Net profit before interest and taxes 1 lakh 50,000. Tax rate is 50%, that is 30,000. Calculate return on investments for your shareholders. As we already said, your net profit before interest and tax is taken for the payment of your interest and tax. After paying your profit, interest and tax, the profit is available to the shareholders. See to it, shareholders investments is said to be equity share capital plus your preference share capital. Whenever we mean shareholders, we include both equity and preference. Reserves and surplus is said to be the accumulated reserves that is available for the shareholders. Reserves is said to be accumulated reserve, surplus is said to be the profit available in your net profit for the current P&L account for the current year. So 2 lakh rupees plus 1 lakh will get 4 lakh rupees. Now net profit before interest and taxes 1 lakh 50,000 less your interest 30,000 will get profit before tax. This is said to be earnings before tax. Earnings before tax. Now taxes paid, this is net profit after interest and tax. It can be otherwise called as PAT, that is your profit after tax. Now this is 60,000 is said to be the profit after tax. Return on shareholders investment is net profit after interest and tax divided by shareholders investments. Whenever we mean shareholders investments or proprietary funds, we include reserves and surplus also. So 60,000 divided by 4 lakhs into 100 is 15%. That is for every 100 rupees invested in the business, they are able to earn 15% of the amount invested. So this is said to be the return on shareholders investment. So to calculate your return on shareholders investment, we have to first calculate what is your total investments. This total investments consists of equity capital, preference share capital and reserves and surpluses available for the shareholders. And profit, any profit that is taken is profit after tax is the profit available for shareholders. So how will you arrive at profit after tax? We'll get EBIT minus your interest minus your tax, that is your income tax. So net profit after interest and tax divided by shareholders investment is said to be the return on your shareholders investment. Now we come to the problem number 7. Following information is given for the company whose accounting year ends on 31st March 2000. Profit is 80,000 rupees, taxes 50% 1 lakh, profit after taxes 80,000. Now preference dividend is 50%, that is calculate return on equity capital. Return on equity capital is net profit after tax minus your preference dividend divided by equity share capital into 100. Profits is 80,000 rupees, taxes 40,000 rupees, profit after tax is 40,000. This should be 40,000 rupees and profit after tax is 40,000 rupees. Profit available for the equity shareholders is 29,000 rupees. Less your preference dividend 11,000 will get 29,000 rupees. I repeat here, profit is 80,000, less taxes 50% 40,000, profit after taxes 40,000, less your preference dividend is 11,000, then that is the profit available for your equity shareholders. 29,000 divided by your equity share capital, whichever that is paid up. 80,000 into 100, that is 36.25. So for every 100 rupee invested by the equity shareholders, they will get 36.25. Problem number 8. From the following information given under, find out the capital gearing ratios. How many times the capital is geared? What is gearing? So when we include debt into capital, that is said to be gearing firm. So when we say gearing, we include debt into capital. So whenever the debentures or your long-term borrowing is included in the capital, we say it is a geared firm. So when the debentures and your long-term borrowings are less, we say it is low geared firm. When the debentures and long-term borrowings are more, we say it is highly geared firm. This inclusion of debt into capital is said to be an advantageous one in two aspects. One aspect is, when you are going to include this long-term borrowings into your capital, they do not interfere into your management. So no dilution of control is here. The equity shareholders will have the ultimate control over the company. So dilution of ownership or dilution of control is not made here. The second point is, if you pay a fixed amount of interest to these debenture holders or your long-term loan givers, then they will get it and they will move from your company. So it is a fixed bearing securities, fixed interest bearing securities. When you pay this fixed interest to the debentures or long-term borrowings, this interest is said to be tax deductible under your Income Tax Act. What we mean as tax deductible? Whatever interest that is paid on your long-term borrowings or your debentures can be taken as one of your operating expense in your profit and loss account before paying off your tax. So we get your tax shield also. So having a tax shield and having the concentration of control in the hands of the equity shareholders, this inclusion of debt into the capital is said to be a profitable one. Whenever we include debt into capital, the earnings per share will automatically increase, because after paying off this fixed interest to the long-term borrowings, whatever profit that is remaining, that will be taken by the shareholders. Again here shareholders will mean equity and your preference shareholders. These preference shareholders are also to be of hybrid variety, wherein they will have a fixed dividend in there to be paid. Again they are said to be the owners. These preference shareholders will not attend the annual general meeting. They cannot attend the meeting or they cannot vote in the meeting. They can attend their own class meetings. So they cannot directly interfere into the management of the company. So equity shareholders are said to be the real owners of the enterprise, who are going to run the annual general meeting and who are going to vote in the meeting and who are going to decide the matters or decide the policy makers in the annual general meeting. So after paying off this preference shareholders, the equity shareholders will get all the amount that is remaining in the company. So any profit that is available for the equity shareholders will be taken as a dividend. This is your earning per share. All these earning per share will not be given to the equity shareholders. A part of it will be retained, and that will be retained earnings, and part will be given to the shareholders. That is a payout ratio. This gearing will result in a higher EPS and a higher value of a firm. But this does not mean that you can going on increasing your long-term debt. When you go on increasing your long-term debt, your interest burden will increase. When your interest burden increases, the interest coverage ratio, that is how many times you are able to cover your interest, will be less. So this will be a threatening one for the firm. So you must have an optimum capital structure wherein the debt on your capital should be in such a way that the EPS is said to be maximum. At the same time, you will have a control over your fixed interest also. See, to your capital gearing ratio is equal to equity capital plus your reserves and surplus. Preference share capital plus your long-term debt bearing fixed interest. That is your denominator. For 2008, 5 lakh rupees plus 3 lakhs, that is your equity capital plus reserves, divided by your preference share capital and long-term debt, namely 2,50,000 and 2,50,000, will get 8:5. This is said to be low gear firm, because we have 8 part as your equity share capital and 5 part your long-term borrowings. For 2009, 4 lakhs is said to be your equity share capital and 2 lakhs is said to be your reserves and surplus. What is your preference share capital and long-term borrowings, fixed interest securities? 3 lakhs plus 4 lakhs. So, it is 6:7 where it is highly geared firm. 6 is your share capital and 7 is your long-term debt. So, this is said to be highly geared firm. So, we have to find out a balance between low gearing firm and a highly gearing firm. So, we must have an optimum capital structure and the balance of your debt and equity should be made to increase your EPS and to have a control over your fixed interest. Shall pass on to the problem number 9. The capital of Smart Company Limited is as follows. 80,000 equity shares of rupees 10 each, 8 lakh rupees. 9% 30,000 preference shares of 10 each, that is 3 lakh rupees. Totally we have 11 lakh rupees as capital. The following information has been obtained from the books of the company. Profit after tax is 2,70,000, depreciation is 60,000, equity dividend paid is 20%, market price per equity shares is 40 rupees. You are required to calculate dividend yield on equity share, cover for your preference dividend, cover for equity dividend, earnings per share, price earnings ratio and net cash flow for the company. First one, dividend yield on equity share. Dividend per share divided by market price per share into 100. Dividend it is given as 20%, face value is 10 rupees. So, 20% on 10 rupees we get 2 rupees, market price is 40 rupees. So, we will get 0.05, that is 5%. So, for every 100 rupees it yields 5 rupees. Cover for your preference dividend. How many times your profit is covering your preference dividend? When will you pay the preference dividend? After paying off your tax. So, we take profit after tax as your numerator and preference dividend as your denominator. 2,70,000 divided by 27,000, that is 9% of your 3 lakh rupees. 9% is your dividend rate, 3 lakhs is your capital. So, 27,000 is your preference dividend. So, it is 10 times. That means the profit after tax 2,70,000. With this profit, we are able to cover the preference dividend of 27,000 for 10 times. So, 10 times the company is able to pay the preference dividend. Cover for equity dividend. When will you pay the equity dividend? After paying off your preference dividend. So, profit after tax and the preference dividend. So, profit after tax minus your preference dividend divided by your equity dividend. Equity dividend is 20%. 20% of your total value, that is 8 lakh rupees is 1,60,000 rupees. So, 2,70,000 is your profit after tax minus your preference dividend 27,000. So, 2,43,000 divided by 1,60,000, it is 1.52 times. That is, with the profit available 2,43,000, the company is able to pay 1.52 times of your equity dividend. This is your equity dividend cover. So, we have calculated dividend yield per equity share, then cover on your preference dividend, cover for your equity dividend. Earnings per share. When will you calculate your earnings per share? After paying off your preference dividend. So, profit after tax and preference dividend divided by the number of equity shares. That is, how many number of equity shares we have? 8 lakhs is the equity share capital. We have 10 rupees as your face value. So, we have number of shares as 80,000. So, 2,40,000 is the profit after paying off your preference dividend. That is 270 minus your 27. This will be 2,43,000. So, it is 3.04. Next is we have price earnings ratio. Market price per share divided by earnings per share. So, 40 divided by 3.04, that will be 13.1:1. So, your earning is 1 rupee means your market price is 13.1 rupee. That is, for every 1 rupee, the market is able to earn 13 rupees. Net cash flow. Total cash flow minus your dividend. Total cash flow is net profit plus depreciation. Why this depreciation is added? It is a non-cash item. No flow of funds is there. So, we are adding the depreciation back to the net profit. So 2,70,000 plus 60,000 minus your dividend. Dividend here woman, equity preference dividend and also your equity dividend. So 3,30,000 minus 1,87,000 is 1,43,000. So this is the net cash flow for the company. So we have calculated earnings per share, price earnings ratio and net cash flow. Price earnings ratio is how far your share is going to earn the price in the market. Problem number 10. From the following information, make out a statement of proprietors funds with as many details as possible. Current ratio is 2.5, liquid ratio is 1.5, proprietary ratio is 0.75, that is your fixed assets divided by proprietors funds. We have the particulars as working capital as 60,000, reserves and surplus as 40,000, bank OD as 10,000, and we assume we don't have any long-term funds or fictitious, long-term loan or fictitious assets. So with this, we are going to calculate the statement of proprietors funds. First, we can calculate the current assets and current liabilities. Current ratio is 2.5, that is given in the problem. That is current assets divided by current liabilities. Suppose current liabilities are taken as X, current assets will be 2.5X. So 60,000, that is your working capital is current assets minus your current liabilities. 60,000 is equal to 2.5 minus X, that is your 1.5X, that is your 60,000. X is equal to 40,000. 60,000 by 1.5, that is 40,000. What is X here? Current liability. So current liabilities are said to be 40,000. What is your current asset? 2.5. So 2.5 into 40,000 is 1 lakh rupees. Now find out the difference between current assets and current liabilities here. 1 lakh minus 40,000 is 60,000, that is said to be your working capital. So your calculations are correct here. Calculating the stock. Liquid ratio is equal to liquid assets or quick assets divided by current liabilities. That is 1.5 is given in the problem. 1.5 is equal to quick assets divided by 40,000. That is quick assets is 40,000, sorry, for 60,000 here. That is you will get 1.5 into 40,000, you will get 60,000. So current assets minus your stock is said to be quick assets. So 60,000 is equal to 1 lakh is the current asset we have calculated minus your stock. So the stock is 40,000 here. 1 lakh minus 60,000, stock is 40,000. Calculation of your proprietors funds on your fixed assets. Proprietary ratio is 0.75, it is given in the problem. When proprietors funds is calculated in the ratio of fixed assets is to proprietors funds, that is 0.75 is to 1. That means your proprietor fund is taken to be X, fixed asset is 0.75X. Proprietors funds is long-term, capital plus long-term loans plus your current liabilities, which is otherwise equal to fixed assets plus current assets plus fictitious assets. That is taking into account the balance sheet structure, that is your financial structure. This is said to be the liability side and this is said to be the asset side. Both the sides must be equal. So X plus 0 plus 40,000. So 0.7X is equal to 1 lakh minus 1 lakh plus 0. As we don't have the long-term loans and fictitious assets, X minus 0.75 X is equal to 1 lakh minus 40,000. That is X is 2 lakh 40,000. That is proprietors funds is 2 lakh 40,000. What is your fixed assets now? 2 lakh 40,000 into 0.75. That is 1 lakh 80,000. Fixed assets comes to 80,000. How will you calculate your capital now? Proprietors funds is share capital plus reserves. That is proprietor funds is 2 lakh 40,000. We have a share capital given in the problem. Sorry, we have reserves given in the problem. We are now calculating your capital. Now statement of proprietors funds. Share capital is 2 lakhs, we have found it out. Reserves is given in the problem 40, so it is 2 lakh 40. How we are going to invest your funds? Fixed assets is 1 lakh 80,000, stock is 40, other current assets is 60,000. So we have 2 lakh 80,000, less your current liabilities 40,000, we have 2 lakh 40,000. So this is your proprietors funds. So this share capital and reserve is said to be the sources of your funds, and these are said to be the applications of your fund, how the amounts are invested in your business. So this 2,40,000 must be equal to your application. So this is said to be the traceability of your funds. The problem number 11. From the following details, make out the balance sheet with as many details as possible. Stock velocity, it is otherwise stock turnover ratio is 6. Capital turnover ratio is 2. Fixed assets turnover ratio is 4. Gross profit turnover ratio is 20%. Debtors velocity, that is your debtors turnover ratio is 2 months. Creditors turnover ratio is 73 days. Gross profit is 60,000. Reserves and surplus is 20,000. Closing stock is 5,000 in excess of your opening stock. So we are going to frame the balance sheet. First we can calculate sales. GP ratio is GP divided by sales into 100. GP ratio is given as 20% and gross profit is 60,000. So if 20% is 60,000, what is 100? So this is sales is 3 lakh rupees. So if 20% is your gross profit and gross profit is 60,000 rupees, now my 100% is said to be 3 lakh rupees. Now calculation of the purchases made. What is your purchases? As usual, cost of goods sold plus your closing stock minus your opening stock. As GP ratio is 20%, cost of goods sold is 80%, as we already said. Cost of goods sold is 3 lakhs into 80%, that is 2,40,000. This 3 lakhs is your sales. What is your 80%? That is your 2,40,000. Either way we can calculate sales minus GP, or we can calculate as 80% of your sales. Closing stock is 5,000 more than the opening stock. What is your purchases now? 2,40,000 plus your 5 will get 2,45,000. Stock turnover ratio is 6 now. What is the stock turnover ratio formula? Cost of goods sold divided by average stock. Cost of goods sold we have calculated as 2,40,000. Average stock we have to calculate it. 6 is equal to 2,40,000 divided by average stock. So now average stock is 40,000 rupees. Bring this average stock to the left hand side, we will get 6 into average stock is equal to 2,40,000. Average stock is 40,000. What is your average stock? Opening stock plus closing stock by 2. Since closing stock is 5,000 more, opening stock plus opening plus 5,000 by 2. Either you can have opening stock as X also. 40,000 is equal to 2 opening stock plus 5,000 by 2. 80,000 minus 5,000 will have 2 opening stock. So opening stock is equal to 75,000, that is 80 minus 5,000 is 75,000. Divided by 2 will get 37,500. Closing stock is opening stock plus 5,000, that is 37,000 plus 5,000 will get 42,000. Sorry, 37,500 here. 37,500 plus 5,000 will get 42,500. Calculation of datas. Datas velocity is total datas divided by credit sales divided by number of months. Sorry, this is into number of months. 2 is equal to total datas divided by 3 lakhs into 12 months. All sales have been taken as credit sales. We assume all the sales as credit sales. Now total datas into 12. This should not be here now. 3 lakhs into 2. Total datas is 3 lakhs by 2 by 12 will get 50,000 rupees. This is your creditors velocity. Total creditors divided by credit purchases into number of working days. So 73 into total creditors divided by credit purchases is 2,40,000 into 365. Again cross multiply it. 365 into total creditors, which is equal to 2,45,000 into 73 days. Total creditors is equal to 2,45,000 into 73 divided by 365. We are cross multiplying here. So 49,000 is said to be the total creditors. Calculation of fixed assets. Fixed assets turnover ratio is cost of goods sold divided by fixed assets. 4 into fixed assets is equal to 2,40,000. Fixed assets turnover ratio is 4. Now fixed assets is equal to 2,40,000 divided by 4. Again we have a cross multiplication. Fixed assets is said to be 60,000. Now calculation of capital. Capital turnover ratio is cost of goods sold divided by capital. We know cost of goods sold as 2,40,000. Turnover ratio is 2. Again cross multiply it. 2 into capital is equal to 2,40,000. Capital is 1,20,000. Alternatively, capital is taken to mean the net worth. Then net worth is said to be 1,20,000. What is your net worth? Share capital plus reserves and surplus is equal to 1,20,000. Share capital is equal to 1,20,000 minus your 20,000 will give you 1 lakh. Reserves is 20,000. We are deducting reserves from your total net worth. So we arrive at the share capital. So at the end we are preparing the balance sheet. Capital is 1 lakh rupees. Reserves and surplus is 20,000. Creditors is 49,000. Fixed assets we have 60,000. Stock 42,500. Debtors 50,000. And we have a total of the balance sheet as 1,69,000. Bring the balance to the asset side, that is 1,69,000. And we have the cash as the balancing figure as 16,500. So with the given information, we are able to calculate capital, reserves and surplus, creditors on the liability side, fixed assets, stock, debtors on the asset side. So cash will be the balancing figure. So this is how the balance sheet is prepared with the given information. Hope you have understood some of the calculations regarding the ratio analysis. Thank you.